some people will listen to a calliope, and to them it's this really annoying sound. Believe me, about half the people in line couldn't wait for that thing to stop playing. Good morning, everyone. It is a Tuesday morning in the French Quarter. Yeah, we're first going to find something to eat, and then we're going to go on our trip aboard the Natchez. Day 2 in New Orleans was a much better day than the first. Day 2 was a full day in the French Quarter. And the first thing we did was we went to breakfast. Now, we were recommended to go to this place called Clover Grill, which was on the corner of Bourbon and Dumaine Street. It was supposedly a place where locals go to eat. And so we checked it out, and it turned out to be a very vintage diner. Some of the features of the diner date back probably to the 30s or the 20s. And what I will say is that there were a lot of people who sat down and were waiting to be served, and they would wait, and then they would get up and leave because no one would serve them. No one would come by and take their order. And so it was really interesting because after a while, the cook who was behind the counter noticed that a lot of people were just getting up and leaving. And I suspected that that cook was probably the owner of the establishment. And I think I was right, because what he said next, he called for everyone's attention in the restaurant. And he said, if you don't have the patience to wait for us to come by and take your order or to serve you food, then this isn't the place for you. And I thought, the owner of this business, he is either very arrogant or he produces some really good food that takes time and requires patience from the customers. And I will say, to the credit, that is the fluffiest omelet I've ever eaten in my life. It tasted and was the texture of something made by an angel. It was really delicious. Later that day was going to be the highlight of our trip, which was going to be a ride aboard the Steamboat Natchez. And we still had plenty of time before that happened, so we decided to kind of walk around. And we walked around Charter Street and, found a few interesting elements that I wanted to talk about. If you look up at that building there is a advertisement. Oh, you need a biscuit. Right, okay. You need a biscuit, and it says 5 cents each bag, National Biscuit Company. And so they would paint these advertisements and things right there on the sides of buildings and such, kind of like billboards. And some of them still exist in the quarter today, completely untouched, just as they were. And that's one of those cool things about the French Quarter that I really love, including images that you see here of these gas lamps. I did a very popular video recently about gas lamps and how in the past they would have burned a lot brighter than they burn today, especially with a mantle. But they're decorative mostly here in the French Quarter, but they still operate. So we're on Charter Street, and if you look down this way, you can kind of see the original levels of where the sidewalk used to be and the curb as well. So you can see this stanchion here going through the concrete to the level below. And over time, with maintenance and things that the city would do, they would just layer the concrete over. But you can also see the original curb that would have been here before that. And it's this darker, it looks like stone, but it could be concrete as well. But if that is the top of the original curb, 2 inches below the current curb, you can imagine that the street level would have been several inches below that, at least 9 inches, because way back in the day, they used the curbs as a stepping stool for people to get off their horses in order to tie them up to the poles and things. And then afterwards, we went to walk around Jackson Square, the little park that's in the middle of Jackson Square, and to kind of see it and enjoy it. And it was really lovely. Mornings in the French Quarter were really beautiful. You could really, you could hear the birds singing, and there's very minimal traffic, either by car or by foot, very minimal traffic either way. And it was very pleasant, very pleasant. Afterwards, we went over to the Steamboat Natchez. Now, if you guys were watching my video from yesterday, I was talking about how today we're going to ride the Steamboat Natchez. It's the only actual steam-powered riverboat in New Orleans. All the rest are fakes, like fakes. They don't actually run on steam, but this one does. And it's over 50 years old. It, I believe, went into service in 1971 or thereabout, and they still use it today. And it's part of a line of steamboats named Natchez. So, you know, its predecessors had the same style, the same look, and everything. It looks as though the paddles of the paddle wheel are still made of wood, which is traditional to have the paddles themselves made of wood. But the structural members of the paddle wheel itself, those are steel. I can tell from here. And we waited for them to begin boarding. Now, right as they begin boarding, that's when they have a special player come out, and she plays the calliope. The calliope is a musical instrument that is a system of whistles, all producing different notes, different musical notes. And they can play it like an organ and produce beautiful music from it. I will say, though, that a calliope is not for everybody. Some people will listen to a calliope, and to them it's this really annoying sound. Believe me, about half the people in line couldn't wait for that thing to stop playing. But the other half of the people in line were enthralled with it, just like I was, because it is a classical instrument. You know, it's something from way in history that you don't usually hear anymore. So it was really cool to hear the calliope.
That one whistle blast indicate that we are officially underway, and our course is apparent. We'll be proceeding downstream, down the mighty Mississippi River. The Mississippi River is the third largest river in the world in terms of area drained, following the Amazon and Nile rivers. This river, discovered in the mid-1540s by Native Americans, starts up at Lake Itasca in Minnesota. It travels down over 2,700 miles into the Gulf of Mexico. Look just behind us on our right, view the skyline of our city, tallest building, the Whitney Building. Also see the Twin Crescent City Connection bridges to our right. It is one of the best spots on the river to take a picture of our skyline. Algiers Point, viewed from the air, resembles a large moon crescent, giving the city of New Orleans the nickname as the Crescent City. In our cruise today, we may see ships from all over the world. All ships traveling up and down this river are required to have a licensed American pilot aboard to navigate. Now, pilots, who are skilled individuals, are capable of maneuvering large ships up and down this river.
So first you set sail south down the river, and along the way you get pointed out to different landmarks along the way, and it's really, really interesting. And we were able to kind of relax and just enjoy the trip. We walked around real quick, and I filmed a whole walk around of the Natchez, and I'll release that as a separate video so that way you can enjoy it. But it was really lovely, the Natchez. And it's really cool because you can go down onto the lower level and you can see the giant boilers. There were 2 or 3 giant boilers that kept the whole thing powered. And then you could go into the engine room and see the steam cylinders. There were 4 steam cylinders in total, 2 per arm being the thing that rotates the paddle wheel. And that arm is huge, and it rotates the paddle wheel with an immense amount of force. I mean, you can feel the back end of the boat just constantly lifting and shuddering as those arms turn and rotate the wheel. It is just absolutely amazing.
And just to tell you a little more about the Steamboat Natchez, it's just a nice restaurant upstairs in the Natchez, named after the Natchez. We built the break when we began in 1975, off the $5 million build. 285 feet long, 44 feet wide.
And so riding aboard the Natchez was just awesome. So after wandering around the Natchez and just kind of touring it, I went back upstairs to sit down at our table and just enjoy the view as we went along. It was really great. And as the Natchez pulled back into port, the Calliope started playing again. And this time it was playing Zippity Doo Dah. And the song ended with a very loud blast from the main whistle. So that was really, really neat.
So long, everybody.
I would say if you're curious about taking a quick, it's a 2.5 hour cruise down the Mississippi River. If you're curious about taking that cruise on the Natchez, do it. I wouldn't recommend taking that cruise with any other ship. I really think the Natchez is special. And so if you ever have a chance, do it. And you'll learn some cool history along the way as you pass different landmarks. So that was just a really great experience. Hey folks, Alex standing here on Barrack Street. Just wanted to give a quick shout out to people who've made this dream a reality. So anyway, thank you Ken Norse Nordlemeister. Thank you Martina, who is the mother of my friend Shiloh. Jeffrey Charles, Willow Tree, Adventures with the Stones, Adam Painter, Emmett the Sports Car 86, Peter Angelopoulos, Sarah Klenotic, William Walzenberg, Dino DeSantis, Nicolaus Boothman, and Aaron K4RNA. Thank you all so much. I can't tell you how much this has meant to me. Anyway, back to the show. After the Natchez, we went to rest at the hotel room for a brief bit, and then afterwards we went to meet our private tour guide because we had booked a private tour, and what we wanted was to see the French Quarter in a way that maybe other people don't get to. We had told our private tour guide, Andrew, that we wanted to learn about the history of the French Quarter, as well as some of the architecture, and learn about some of the people in the French Quarter that were influential to it. And so it was a really, really fun tour. And because we had a private tour guide, we could ask Andrew whatever questions we had. There was no limits or anything like that, and it didn't feel like we were being rushed because we didn't have to keep up with this massive group. It was just us. And so that was really amazing. If you want to take a private tour with the Tours by Foot company, it is $210 for a private tour. And if you split that up amongst your group, it's much cheaper. But I believe that they allowed up to 12 people in a private tour. We had 5 people, and we were able to split the cost amongst the 5 of us. So it ended up being about $42 for each of us. And then we tipped Andrew at the end of the tour. So that was just really great. So we enjoyed the tour, and I think that if you are interested in having a tour as well, you should do it. So in respect of Andrew's profession, I didn't video the entire tour with him because it would kind of defeat the purpose of why he does a tour. But I was filming certain landmarks as we went by them, so that way I could make content out of it later.
In 1727, just shortly after the colony was founded here, and they're initially going to come at the request of the first governor, Bienville himself. So all you want to do is you want to invite the Catholic Church in your colony in order to help it thrive. Because in doing so, they unlocked the unlimited power and wealth of the Catholic Church in order to help them out. And here they're going to open the first hospital in the city, the first orphanage, and the first all-girls school in the city, which still exists to this day. Ursuline Academy is still in the city. What? The bottom floor is parking. Top floor is resident. Yeah. He's right, they did convert the bottom to a parking garage. They tore up all that livable space and turned it into an indoor parking garage.
Well, why'd you do that?
So I forgot to film it, but I had Cafe Du Monde for the first time in my life. We had, I had beignets and a cafe au lait, and it was really good, actually. You know, I heard it was a very touristy place. I wasn't sure how good the quality of the food would be, but actually I really liked it. So I just forgot to film it. But now we are here in front of the statue of Joan of Arc. She is the, was she patron saint?
So after the private tour, it was time to figure out where we were going to eat. And me, Chris, and my father went to eat at a restaurant called Coop's Place. It was one of the places recommended to me. And it's another one of those places that locals go. I will say Coop's Place certainly felt like a hole in the wall, maybe like a kind of dive bar, but the food was amazing. I mean, we had some of the best food that we'd ever had up until that point, and it was just fantastic. I would actually highly recommend Coop's Place, especially for the atmosphere, because there were a lot of locals that were eating there, and you could definitely tell they all knew each other, and there was just this funny, hilarious rhetoric that was going on as we were eating. So we loved it, and the service was wonderful. So Coop's Place definitely was worth it. I remember I had gumbo for a starter, and then I had a combination plate that was a combination of various different New Orleans foods, including fried chicken. The fried chicken was amazing, and so was the other New Orleans foods with it. I believe there was jambalaya and red beans and rice and such. Just really delicious food. And that's how we ended day 2. It was really, really wonderful to see New Orleans in this different light. And we still had a lot more to see. So thank you guys for watching, and be sure to check in for the next day on our tour. And I'll see you all next time. Bye-bye.